So guys, let's talk a little bit about she, right? You may be imagining, how come we're talking about she if that's so simple, right? But remember, there's one case we use she where we wouldn't expect, right? Remember, he for male, of course you know that, right? I even feel retarded telling you that, right? She for female and it for object. But remember some exceptions, right? Object, animal, or plant, as people say it. Okay, the thing about it, right? Keep in mind that yes, you use it for animals, but if you know the animal's name, let's say it, then you should call it he or she. The idea is if you have an affection, any kind of affection or respect for the animal, if you're not going to eat the animal or just leave the animal there, then you can call it he or she, right? You can call babies it, right? Not because you think babies are terrible and they are just like objects, maybe, for some people, but because you don't know the sex of the baby, then you call it, right? There are cases where you don't know who is speaking and then you say it, right? For example, you pick up the phone and then you say, hello, who is it, right? We don't say who are you, right? For a telephone conversation, right? The same thing as somebody knocking on the door. Okay, but there's a situation where it's way more interesting, right? And the situation is the cases we use she for objects, right? I don't know if you have ever heard it, but for example, there is a name of a book called The United States, Her People, and Her Beauty, something like that, right? And then you keep thinking, right, how is it possible? So United States, her, shouldn't be its. Remember, it's without the apostrophe because it's possessive, right? And then the answer is no. We can use she to describe objects if we have a certain, let's say, affection for the object, and if we want to sound a little bit more rhetoric, right? Or, I don't know, fancy, if you will, right? So you can say that you love the ocean and she completes you, fulfills you in a way that nothing else will, right? So you are treating the ocean as a she. Okay, but then you may ask me, all right, but I get it. So if I'm talking about Argentina, so I can say she is beautiful. But if I'm talking about Brazil, then it should be he, because, you know, Brazil is male and Argentina is female, right? No way, right? Keep in mind, guys, that this idea of having gender for everything, this is a romance language thing, you know? What do I mean by romance languages? Romance languages are those derived from Latin, you know? So Portuguese, French, Italian, Spanish, right? And some other languages as well, not just romance language, right? For an American or for a native, it doesn't make any sense that a spoon is a girl, right? And a fork is a boy, you know? They always think, where do you get that from, you know? So how do you know that a spoon is a girl and a fork is a boy? Because for them, everything is it. So you can just use she for affection. But then you may think, well, that's not fair, and what if I want to call something he? You can't, because just women are lovable, men are not lovable, okay?